We're in part 2 here because Stan was silly enough to shut off the camera, but that's okay. We'll just do it in 2 parts. So there you go.
So this is Scootney Flats. It's one of 2 vineyards owned by a company called Bellagio. The other one that they own is called Red Heaven. Scootney Flats is I want to say it's about 700 feet elevation. It's at the lower elevations of Red Mountain, and as the name implies, the soil type is a Scootney soil. So that's there's a lot of broken stone mixed in with some sandy loam. Unlike the upper portions of Red Mountain, which are almost entirely sandy. So this is considered one of the cooler parts of what is one of the warmest appellations.
So where's Scootney Flats on Red Mountain?
If anyone is going up to Red Mountain, if you take the turn to go up to Hedges, it's the first vineyard on the right.
Okay. How many of you have been up to Hedges? Okay, so you know where he's talking about?
You passed it.
All right.
Yeah. So much more red fruit, isn't there?
Oh yeah, yeah, big time. To me, it's, for lack of better terms, it's very grapey.
Yeah, it's there's not as much of the herbal spice character.
Got a lot of licorice too.
Yeah, it's really, really jammy.
That meat marinade, to me, it indicates the youngness of the wine. Almost like barbecue spices.
Wow. That's been open almost 24 hours now, and that is still as tight as a drum.
Yeah, I mean...
Try that again in 2 more days.
I will.
Yeah. The tannins are very robust, but they're all in balance.
Yeah, it is very balanced and a lot spicier than it was last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see it developing. If you guys ever want to have fun, just open a bottle if you have the self-control, have a glass, let it sit another day, have another glass, let it sit another day, and you'll be surprised at how that wine will evolve.
Somebody asked me last night, they were asking, how do critics try to predict how long it will take for a wine to open up or how long it will age? And I mentioned to do what you just suggested, that a lot of the critics, when they're tasting wines, they'll taste them blind and kind of score them. But then, I don't know if they use it to adjust their scores later, but then they'll keep tasting them for a couple more days after they've been opened to see how they evolve. And if you open a wine and you taste it, and then you set it aside, and you taste it the next day, and it's completely shot, that's a drink now wine.
Yes.
This wine is still really, really tight after a day, so I'm going to say, come back in a couple of days, probably even a week, and it'll probably still be pretty good.
Yes.
But that tells me this is 25 years or more.
Yes. Yeah, easily.
Now, I don't know if you remember last night, the barrel was fairly evident on the nose when we first opened it, and now it's really receded into the background, that's what you expect oak to do as a wine ages and malts.
Yeah, I would say, just based on my experience, I would say it'll be really approachable in 6 years. And then 6 years after that, it'll be starting to go to its peak.
I think you're probably right.
Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Crazy. And that's available now too, the 13?
No, we just bottled it, and so we're
How many cases?
Only 71.
71
Yeah,
cases.
we got
71 cases.
We did 92 cases of the Elephant Mountain, 71 of the Scootney Flats. The Scootney Flats, one of the reasons why it tastes so concentrated is it picked out at 2 1/4 tons an acre.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how small the crop was.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And was that by your recommendation, or is that just how it turned out?
That's just how it turned out. I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
If I had to depend on the economics of that project to feed my children, then I might be a little upset. But since I'm just doing it for the fun, for the love, for the joy of what I do, I'm glad it came out as light as it did.
So this is another wine we tasted last night, and this is the Sentinel Red Northridge Vineyard, which is one of Butch's vineyards. Northridge?
Correct.
Yeah, right by his house, actually. Kind of behind it.
It's a couple. I think it's a couple miles to the north or east of his house.
Okay.
So This is about 1,000 to 1,200 feet elevation, so it's a high elevation site. It's very, very shallow soils. We feel that some of the best reds that we get off the Milbrandt vineyards come from Sentinel.
In fact, when we went to Northridge, we saw these Charles Smith. He likes Northridge.
He loves Northridge. Dustin Valley gets some off of Northridge. Dunham Cellars gets some off of Northridge. There's quite a number of really big names that they get fruit off of Northridge.
Yeah.
They all recognize it.
Yeah.
This one, the composition's on the back there. It changes every year, but it's always Cabernet based. 70% Cab, 23% Merlot, 5% Malbec, and 2% Petit Verdot. So it's a Bordeaux blend, Cabernet based. The only thing it's missing is Cab Franc, and the main reason why there's no Cab Franc is because there's no Cab Franc planted.
Makes sense.
If we had some, I'd try and put it in there if it worked.
You got to talk Butch into planting some Cinsault. I love Cinsault from Washington. I just think it's amazing. I think if more wineries focused on it, I think it could become the next popular.
I've made Cinsault in a number of different roles in Washington, and I love Cinsault as well. But it seems like everybody who makes a Cinsault, their first and second vintage, their wine club scoops it up because it's so novel. But by the third vintage, they're kind of bored with it at that point. And so,
fickle public.
So much easier when you don't have to sell it. You know, it is worth noting really quick, all three of these wines that we're tasting today are unfiltered, which is something I'm really proud of, because doing it safely is a very difficult thing to do. And so we finally got the winemaking operation both clean and document. The quality control is so tight that we can do this safely now.
Okay. For those of you that were at the tasting last night, you might want to come by to smell this. This is actually closed down quite a bit from last night, which is quite interesting, I think. Aromatically, it's closed down.
I get more the minerality and less of the fruit. The fruit is receded.
Right.
And the minerality, it's like, it smells like pencil shavings right now.
Yeah. It's amazing the difference between last night and today, or tonight.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't closed up too much on the palate, that's for sure. That's amazing wine.
Thank you.
So, it's really nice to have this interview with you, Josh. And by the way, when you watch this, it's going to be in two parts, because when you do it yourself, sometimes you hit the stop button, you have to restart it, but that's no problem. I've been doing YouTube enough that I can figure it out. So there'll be a part 1 and a part 2.
Wonderful.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here. Fantastic. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermented grape juice. Drink it, enjoy it. Be willing to experiment with new things. Don't get stuck on one varietal. If you do that, that's a good thing. But never, ever, ever let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. And if you do that, we can take the snob out of wine.